Israel's offensive has shifted to Rafah, with at least 44 Palestinians reportedly killed by airstrikes this morning in Gaza's southernmost city. The strikes early today came hours after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he asked the military to plan for the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people ahead of a ground invasion. More than half of Gaza's 2.3 million people are packed into Rafah after being uprooted repeatedly by Israeli evacuation orders that now cover two-thirds of Gaza's territory. Dakota Wood is a senior research fellow for defense programs at the Heritage Foundation, and he joins us now live with more on this. Sir, it's good to have you today. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, the pleasure's mine. Thanks for having me on.
So I guess first off, what do you make of this planned ground invasion by Israel, especially considering this is just about the last area that those in Gaza can really evacuate to?
Well, Israel is certainly aware of the criticism that is being levied against it, concerns from Germany, Saudi Arabia, even the President of the United States about the toll that it's taking on the Gazan people. So they are aware of that. So why would they continue? It's because of the threat assessment that Hamas and its militants posed or continue to pose to Israel. So as the military operation has moved from north to south, Hamas leadership and its fighters and its military efforts has actually moved with the people to remain embedded in the people. So Hamas has not repudiated or rolled back its own pledges to destroy Israel, to continue military operations, and the Israelis have to continue then fighting this enemy that's promised the destruction of the Israeli people. So long as Hamas remains intermixed with the population, it puts the population at risk.
And I guess that's the problem here, is that Hamas is intermixed with the population, right? There's a lot of people caught in the crossfire here. Do you think Israel will actually be able to evacuate the number of people it wants to before this ground invasion? We don't know exactly when that's going to happen yet.
Yeah, Netanyahu has said he wants to completed the operation by March 10th, which is the beginning of Ramadan. So even if we look at a calendar, the next 4 weeks, they will have to plan then, can you evacuate hundreds of thousands of people and continue the military operation? So, what you point out is really the complexity of this situation. And it just shows that war is horrible. I mean, you have children, you have innocents, you have shop owners and women that are all caught in this crossfire. And they'll have to figure that out. But it's amazing what can be done when you have to do that. If this was a peaceful thing, buses, working for 6 months, maybe. In the midst of a war, they will find a way to move people if that's a high enough priority.
As you mentioned, there's been a lot of criticism toward Israel for this move, as Saudi Arabia, you mentioned, has warned Israel against this ground invasion. What do you think the reaction will be on the world stage if this ground invasion actually goes ahead? Will there be any repercussions for Israel, judging by the fact of how so many countries are acting before it even happens?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Israel been made a pariah state, as if they haven't received half of the UN's condemnations for humanitarian abuses over the last half century. Half levied against Israel. So this is nothing new. But what we haven't seen is Saudi Arabia or Oman or Qatar or many other countries condemn Hamas for the October 7th attacks. This really struck deep into the Israeli psyche. 1,200 innocents, beheaded children, brutally raped women. It would be similar to 5,000 Canadians or 40,000 Americans. So to the extent that Hamas or Hezbollah or Iran doesn't pull back on their objectives to destroy Israel, Israel just has to take account of this threat, this existential threat to the viability of the state. And they'll do what they have to do until they think that threat is receded or has been neutralized in some way.
But at the same time, many of these countries, including Saudi Arabia, obviously calling for a ceasefire. You think we're any closer to that point? We've heard Netanyahu say complete victory, quote, is within a matter of months. What do you think?
Hamas is demanding 1,500 prisoners being released, 500 of those that committed crimes so egregious as serving life sentences. And Hamas demands the right to pick which 500. So, who do you think they're going to pick before they start releasing any hostages? So Hamas holds children and women. They want released lifetime criminals serving lifetime sentences, the worst of the worst. So again, it's not something that Netanyahu can agree to under those conditions.
Okay. Well, Dakota Wood, we do appreciate you taking the time today. We'll have to wait and see what happens in the next few days or weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.